Well, welcome to today's rant. And sorry I haven't been with you for the last few days. Been busy with a advanced prophetic gathering that we're hosting. Have really a great bunch of people there. Great time so far. We're about halfway through it now, and it has been truly remarkable. But I've just been captivated by it and feel like the Lord has given us so much of a download of it. Just processing it all, and I've been getting my own personal download. I've been trying to have time to process and get out. I know I've had many of you asking, can I start sharing them and all, but I want to put them in a certain order where they will be the most clear and most beneficial. And of course, some of you are still talking about the current events that seems to be dominating the news still, about all these memos and revelations of the corruption and unbelievable corruption in our government. I mentioned 16 points that had come out by one writer, takeaways. His name was John Nolte. And he did a great job in an article which I published in my stream. You can go back and read that rather than me trying to go through it. It was really well done. I thought he made just a great case for what is really happening. And I think it still reveals some of the worst corruption in the nation's history. Scariest type of corruption where you really see leaders in our FBI and DOJ saying they're going to determine who's the president of our country, not the voters. And that is really, really scary, and it's implicating more and more people. Big question is, where's Jeff Sessions? Every day one analyst, one newsman said, he said, you need a calculator to add up all the crimes committed by the DOJ and FBI. That was Greg Garrett. And I think that is really accurate. It is just every day there's new, unbelievable revelations of what went on through emails, everything else. And again, I think it's the Holy Spirit cleaning the house. How did it ever get that far? I also think the biggest mistake in the world has been the way the Democratic leaders have been responding to it. They just look worse and worse, more and more guilty every day. Of course, you're going to have 30% of the people who will never see their guilt, will never, they're going to follow the party line regardless. They're just conditioned that they're, the left is right and the right is wrong, and they're not going to hear anything else. And listen, it's kind of human nature. I've watched for years how people can reject a mountain of evidence about something and accept a molehill about that same thing if that molehill is what they want to believe instead of what the evidence points to. And that's what we're being faced with here. We also had so much of the country conditioned to the way politicians just lie to us. Someone said the way you know a politician is lying is their lips are moving. And we had that. We all watched the statement. We could go on and for a long time talking the way our last president deceived us over and over. And it's like he didn't think anybody would see it. He remember one day he said, the U.S. government will not go in the automotive business, will not go in the automotive industry. That same afternoon, the U.S. government took over General Motors. And it's like he didn't think anybody would see it. How blind and stupid do they think we are? Not to see this incredible evidence that is just piling on and piling on. And, but that's where we are. I think there's going to be a lot of people. I do think we're going to have somebody to rise up in leadership that is going to follow these things through, that justice is done. And justice has to be done here. It's not just about vengeance. It shouldn't be about vengeance at all. It's about, are we going to protect our Constitution or not? Are we going to defend it against this type of thing? Are we going to defend our republic? Are we going to continue to let this kind of thing happen? And right now, it looks like the leadership, talking about Jeff Sessions, it looks like he's not leading. And Rosenstein is running things at the DOJ. That's the way it looks from the outside. And just about everybody's starting to see that. Many are starting to say that. Where is Jeff Sessions in all this? There should have long ago been another prosecutor, devoted to this, or at least have the DOJ doing its job to prosecute and find out the truth about these things. But it looks like, right now, it looks like Rosenstein is the only firewall defending a lot of people who did some of the worst things, I think, maybe in our country's history, in abuse of power and corruption, that he's defending them. He's their last firewall of defense. And he is doing it, and Jeff Sessions is letting it go on. That's what it looks like. Hopefully it turns out to be something very differently. But we obviously have some real serious stuff going on. Guess what? The kingdom is still expanding. The kingdom of God is going on. And but I can understand why the markets are being shaken. This is really, really scary stuff. And markets are being shaken for a lot of different reasons. And one thing I can tell you for sure about our stock markets, I can tell you what the stock market's going to do. They're going to go up and down. They always have and always will. And but a lot of the jitters and the fears, I think a lot of the sell-offs have been created by programs. A lot of people do follow program investing, where if a market drops a certain amount, they automatically sell their stocks. The computer does it. And when you get those compounded, you can have huge drops. Then you can all of a sudden have huge buy orders that make the stocks go up again. And we've had that for as long as, I've been an investor or whatever, things you look out for. But the underlying economy is getting stronger, and that's one thing that scares stocks off. When the economy gets stronger and stronger, interest rates tend to go up. The value of bonds go up, and bonds tend to go the opposite direction of stocks. Now, that's been the past. I think there's been a disconnect at sometimes in the past too, but that's generally stayed. Bond rates start going up, stocks start going down, and we've had the bond rates going up because the dollar's so strong, the economy is so strong and getting stronger. You're going to have tighter money, which is going to drive interest rates even higher, and they're thinking that's going to mean inflation and all this. It's all convoluted, but it's actually sometimes the stock market can take big hits because the economy is doing so good. They see it leading to inflation, and it can, no question about it. But it doesn't mean it will. We've had other times of increasing economic strength and little or no inflation. So, a lot of it is, though, it's fear and faith driven. Well, let's don't put, I'm saying I think it's can be appropriate to be an investor, invest in certain companies, and when you invest in the stocks of a certain country, you're showing your faith in that country's economic future. And I think ours is really bright right now. But you're going to have corrections. You cannot have a stock market going up without some corrections. I'm not sure it's corrected enough yet to be to find the floor and start going back up. Maybe so, because, believe it or not, almost every principle or rule that they make about investing in stocks, in bonds, all these things. They find out later they didn't know all the rules. There are definite exceptions and things change. But anyway, I know it's a gripping thing to so many Americans to see what went on in our government, and then to have the empty feeling of like, we don't have anybody who's going to hold those accountable who did some of the most horrible things that were unquestionably treasonous in our country, and that the other side's not going to do much about it. Could be. Well, when I was in Israel, you can't help but fall in love with Israel. What a wonderful country, and so appreciate those who are laboring there and all those who have such a heart for Israel and the Jewish people. And I think we've got to have that as Christians. I think it's something fundamental. It's such a fundamental purpose of God at the end of this age that if we're going to be aligned with God, there's some ways we really have to get Israel's purpose in that. Love Israel, pray for them, support them. Doesn't mean we believe everything they're doing is right or correct or anything, but we have a general understanding and devotion to that. And but my hope's not in this Jerusalem, not the physical Jerusalem. My hope's in the new Jerusalem that's coming down out of heaven. And it always will be, and I think we've got to keep it there. You keep yours there too. In the Jerusalem above, she is our mother.